So let me ask you this about the situation in Congress right now, Representative. Are you as confused as we are?
Oh, absolutely. This is just a day of uncertainty and chaos and panic. And when the president decides to um, negate what Congress has decided to spend money on and just withhold grants, like more than 2,000 types of grants in this country, boy, we are getting hundreds of phone calls from people saying, what's going to happen with my food bank? Why did Medicaid get turned off last night? When's it coming back on? Police departments calling, asking, what about their cops grants? And will they be able to get their body cameras still? Farmers, research, and the value added producer grants. This is touching everybody's lives. And, as I think about you, CVCH, run by federal grants.
Have you been able to ascertain exactly what programs are affected? Because I know that there was initial reporting that said it was very, very broad. The administration came out with a later statement that said, no, it doesn't affect everything that the federal government does, only specific areas. So have you been able to sort of get a handle on that?
We do not have a handle on that. It feels like they don't even know what they're doing, which is sort of par for the course. But what they have done is just injected so much uncertainty, so much chaos, so much worry in my constituents. And I want people to understand that even if you don't think this affects you, like say you're not on Medicaid or you don't personally get a grant. Well, if you are being treated for cancer and it is an experimental, like you're part of a study, that grant funding just ended and your chemotherapy is paused. Also, the funding that funds that research, for example, at the Hutch in Seattle, if that gets frozen, cancer research stops. And this is something that helps not just Washington, it helps the country and the world. Um, this touches everybody. If your local police department doesn't get funding, they're not going to keep your community as safe.
There has been a discussion about this, and I think you touched on it. Does this cross over into the area of Congress's responsibility for spending? And the term impoundment has been used. Is this an illegal maneuver by the Trump administration, in your view?
This is 100% illegal. We have a balance of powers in this country. House of Representatives initiates any spending bills. It is the power of Congress to appropriate funds to say, how are we going to spend tax dollars? We agree on that in a bipartisan way, and we say how things should be spent and what matters to our constituents and what programs are deserving of funding. For the president to then say, nope, all those federal tax dollars that you Washingtonians paid, we're not going to send any of it back to the programs that help your states. What about these infrastructure programs, projects that we've got underway because of the infrastructure bill we passed a couple years ago? That's all paused now. What happens? What happens with the Apple Capital Loop?
I was going to ask about that because it's a large infra grant that helps to fund the Confluence Parkway project here in Wenatchee. But what I hear you saying is that that's thrown into uncertainty now.
Well, I am not aware of exactly how much of that money has already made it to the project. I think that's the big question. If it's all been sent, dispersed, then you'll be okay. Although just the other day, I signed a letter asking for more funding to extend that project. And so, that's a letter of support. It hasn't been approved yet. But if all of the money has not been dispersed, then that very much will affect whether that project can be completed.
And for the record, we reached out to the city of Wenatchee to see what they knew about the allocation of the infra grant and haven't heard back from them. So we'll follow up.
I'm
Um,
sure they're scrambling too. We're all scrambling to figure out uh, what is and is not being cut and how we're going to manage.
are there particular steps, Representative, that you would anticipate, well, that Congress is able to take in response to this? Is there talk about legislation and resolutions that would address this move specifically?
I don't have a full list of things that we can do. I think the first is, unfortunately, we're not all in Washington, D.C. this week because this would be a great opportunity for all of us, Democrats and Republicans, on the floor of the House to be able to have these conversations and strategize together. This should be a bipartisan issue. They are taking away the balance of powers, and they are basically flouting the intention and the work of Congress. Doesn't matter what party you're in. So we are working through this. I know the legal system is one, so I'm sure lawsuits will ensue. And I will have to get back to you once we have considered this in a bipartisan way and figured out how to respond.